Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the Rooster Rant. I'm your host, Joe Machika. Joined with me are my co-hosts, Alex Jones and Matt Anderson. Tonight, we will have every single take from South Carolina's miraculous win over Missouri at Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday. How the hell did South Carolina pull that one off? Is Lenore Sellers the best quarterback in the SEC? All that and every single takeaway from the game on Saturday. All this after a commercial break.
It's time to look back one final time at this week's Gamecock football game. It's Rooster Rant with Alex Jones and Matt Anderson.
From the Chief Sports Network.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to it. It is a victory Sunday for South Carolina football, pulling off a huge win against Missouri under the lights at Williams-Brice Stadium, 34-30. Alex Jones was there. Matt Anderson was watching closely as well. Guys, initial reactions from the huge win at home.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, talk about momentum shifts in a game. It's been a while since I've seen a game just kind of turn out the way it did. Especially, it doesn't seem like South Carolina's played in games like this a lot, and it was just crazy. Had the first half momentum shifts. South Carolina got off to a pretty good start, and then you see, Missouri kind of work its way back. But then, some in one of the big plays I'm going to talk about here later once we get into it happened that I think kind of brought the momentum back on its side, on South Carolina's side. And then, the second half, it was just a lot of, I think South Carolina struggled in the run defense. I think it's the first time we've seen that this year. But, they made the plays when they had to defensively, and offensively just really, turned it up in that second half. And just like the defense made big plays when they had to.
I echo a lot of that sentiment there, Alex. It was a game where the first half, it seemed like the Gamecocks were almost on cruise control, up 21-6 at halftime. I thought the game was going to be closer than the spread. I mean, going into the game, I said 28-17, something like that. I was in that kind of ballpark, 24-13. I thought Missouri was going to stand up and say, look, we're fighting for everything that you're fighting for right now. We're ranked one spot behind you. We only have 2 losses. We have, 3 SEC games the rest of the way. It's not the Missouri of last year, but I'll tell you one thing, watching that Missouri Tigers club last night reminded me of Missouri from past couple of seasons. They went out there and they fought hard. They were ready to play. Look at their first 2 drives of the game. They ended with points. I always say that your first 2 to 3 drives of any given game should end in points for either team because you've scouted out. You have an idea of how you want this to go. You've schemed it up. You have your plays that lead into other plays. And that happened for Missouri, and it happened for South Carolina too. But holding Missouri to those early field goals, I think, was obviously critical when you look at the final box score.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. The atmosphere was rocking, certainly indeed. Missouri missed an early field goal. Williams-Brice was swaying, certainly. I point to something early on in this game. Back-to-back false starts for Missouri. I believe it was back-to-back false starts. And then a delay of game on that opening drive. Shows you how loud the place was. And then, the atmosphere was absolutely insane and certainly making a difference, right? The final touchdown, shout out to Chris Jackson, I believe, who registered the decibel meter for the final touchdown. We'll get to that touchdown and everything about the end of the game, but registered on the decibel meter. When you have weather guys measuring the noise coming out of your stadium, it's a pretty good sign that things are good with your football program.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was a crazy environment really the whole night from start to finish. And, normally in the press box, it doesn't get as loud just because it's so insulated up there. But, it was extremely loud, especially in that second half when Rocket Sanders scored that touchdown. And, just a crazy environment that's registered with recruits and everybody else that was there so far.
Yeah, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, we're going to talk about the game, but there is a YouTube video that's out there. Someone posted on the Big Spur of the final 9 minutes and 12 seconds of the game with Todd Ellis giving the play-by-play matched up with the television broadcast, and it is truly amazing. Because go back and listen to it if you guys haven't, and anybody that's listening to the show or watching us right now, go back and watch it because it really is the ire of a Gamecock fan. Like during that 9 minutes and 12 seconds, it was an unbelievable finish to the game, and just Tony Morrell said it great on the Big Spur. Just two heavyweights throwing punches and getting back up off the mat, and someone was going to walk out with a win and someone was going to walk out with a loss. And thankfully it was South Carolina. What was y'all's take, if you don't mind me like jumping in here? Gamecocks are up 7-6 at the end of the first quarter. They get 14 points in the second quarter, taking a 21-6 halftime lead. What was y'all's take on the fourth downs? Because that's been a topic of conversation, and I wanted to get y'all's opinion on it because they happened throughout the game, but they also happened in the first half.
Yeah, the one where they had it where South kind of went for it but didn't get it, but it got the play didn't happen because of the review. I think looking back on it, you probably just punt that ball away. You trust the way your defense has been playing. Put Missouri more than likely deep in their own territory with the way Kyle Kroger's been punting the ball. I think you go ahead and punt that one. I think you have to like the confidence Shane Beamer showed in the offensive line and the run game to get that done. But I think just after you saw it happen, not work that first time, especially with the way they run, there wasn't much running room up the middle to start with. So hindsight's 20/20 for them, and they kick it, they punt it away. But I think it's one of those things where it helps that South kind of won, so it's not one of those where you have to look back and wonder if that was a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, great point there. I love going for it on fourth down. I was sick and tired of watching this team do the whole dance, the song and dance where Lenoris comes to the line and they get real close and they do the hard count and then they run the clock down, right? I'm sure every fan had that frustration when they'd been doing these last couple of weeks, but it teed them up for everything that they did this week, right? When you look at it, going for it on fourth down. Shout out again. I'm going to play into my atmosphere comment too. Skew, my guy was sitting behind me, making it super loud there on fourth downs. And so I think it helped. You had the whole stadium behind you, but again, Dowell Loggins and Shane Beamer were playing chess with the move where, do the hard count thing, because Missouri looked flat-footed on just about every single one of those 4th and 1 plays, and you did it a lot early as well. So I like the confidence, and the fact that they were setting it up is next level stuff. Certainly got to be wary of that offensively, but yes, I'm all for it, Matt, and takes guts, and to be able to set it up like you did is next level.
Well, there's so much schematic things and down and distance and where you are on the field. And you're seeing this in analytics at the pro game, and everything that happens in the pros eventually goes back down to college, and vice versa. Things happen in college and go to the professional ranks. For me, I would have liked to have seen them at the start of the second quarter. They went forward on the Missouri 18. They didn't get it. Rocket got stuffed. I think points there would have been good to get your kicker actually kicking the ball and seeing it go through the uprights for potentially later in the game. But even at the end of the second quarter, to get the ball back and score a touchdown going into halftime, that is 2 out of the last 3 games. And we've seen the Gamecocks get an opportunity at the end of the first half and get points on the board and either continue momentum or get even in momentum like they did with A&M to set the tone for the second half in that game. And then 21-16, it kind of felt like the game was over. I thought that, it was on cruise control at that point. The Gamecocks were going to get the ball back to start the second half. Obviously, there was another 4th down in there the Gamecocks didn't get. I think they turned the ball over on downs the first 2 drives of the second half, when maybe they were trying to step on Missouri's throats and kind of end the game earlier. But like I said, heck of a testament to those Missouri football players and their coaching staff for not giving up. And it became very close to a situation like the LSU game, like other games we've seen so far this season, where the Gamecocks jump up to a big lead and then they're fighting for their lives. Thankfully they found a way to score 15 seconds left. Otherwise, we'd be having a very different conversation today.
And shout out to Brady Cook for the way he played in that game. I don't think anybody really knew what his status was going to be heading into that game, but Brady Cook, that running game, and really the offensive line for Missouri played well and gave South Carolina fits, and that really allowed Missouri to stay in the game until late in the game with the way they really ran that outside zone that South Carolina really had to struggle stopping. So it was a whole lot closer game just because I think Missouri's offense really probably put on one of their best performances of the year behind a quarterback who came in and played a really good game.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, I'm glad you brought up that zone running, because it's something that this South Carolina defense had to kind of allow, from my eyes at least, because you had to stop Brady Cook and Luther, right, and Theo as well. And so your focus is stopping those guys, because we know Brady can put it in his hands. Brady can, he's talented with his arm and can, put the ball in tight spots. So, your focus is on that. You have to give up the outside zone run. And so typically, like, if, because you can't stack 10, 5 or 8, 9 in the box, right? Like, and have that. Brady's going to eat you alive on the outside. So again, the zone running scheme that Mizzou has, and why it's beaten South Carolina the last couple of years, is because they've had a running back that can, consistently take a beating on some of those zone runs, but then break one, right? And so shout out to this Gamecock defense. I mean, they held containment really well, which was a big thing. Sometimes it broke loose, but a lot of times it didn't, right? Because they just kept going and going and going. But it was a bend, don't break mentality, right? You might get a couple here, but we're going to contain the bigger ones. Certainly, they had success in the run game near the goal line, but again, you were able to get the stops when it mattered.
Well, to hold Luther Burden down to, I think he had 8 catches for 69 yards, and 37 of them came on that touchdown that took the lead from Missouri. To hold down, I think, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the country, if not the best, for as long as they did, is that bend but don't break mentality you're talking about, Joe, because they were okay giving up 3-4 yards a rush attempt to keep everybody in front of them. And I think, that's the way the game started. You're up 21-6 at halftime. I mean, you kind of feel like, let's just not give up the big play and give them momentum. And I think that honestly, the second half, I mean, it's a recurring theme. I don't know why, but it seems like in the third quarter, there's a lull almost every single game for the Gamecocks offense. I don't know if that's halftime adjustments being made by the teams that Carolina's playing against, their defensive staff, or if it's Dowell trying to change something up as well. But there's third quarter lulls are going to cost the Gamecocks eventually, and it almost did last night. But, even looking at some of these numbers here, Brady Cook, if you look at the ESPN QBR, and it's a scale of 0 to 100, he was an 82.7, 21 of 31, 237 yards passing, 1 touchdown, an interception that came on basically the last play of the game. But Lenore Sellers had an 86.2 out of 100 rank in that rating system, 21 of 30 for 353 yards, 5 touchdowns, and the 1 interception. I do kind of want to talk about that 1 interception because it came on the heels of him putting the ball on the ground and recovering the fumble. And I think that it was just a little bit of like, the only time he did not look calm, cool, and collected the entire game was those 2 plays where he put the ball on the ground. And then I think he just had an indecision. There were 2 wide receivers at different depths. I don't know if he knew exactly who he wanted to throw it to, but that was the only mistakes you could say Lenore's made all game long.
And kind of building off of that point, too, with that interception, that was one of those momentum-shifting plays I was talking about because Missouri is down 7-6 at that point. They get a little bit of a drive going and get into field goal position, and then TJ Sanders has a sack and ends up forcing a longer field goal where that ball was just short on that field goal. So, and that was a play where it could have been all momentum on Missouri's side there, but instead TJ Sanders makes a play there, and South Carolina kind of keeps that momentum. And in the long run, that play may not have mattered, from just an outcome of the game, but at the moment, that was a big momentum shifter there.
There was a crazy stat I saw on the Big Spurt today, guys. I think y'all might have seen it as well. But somebody pulled all the turnovers the Gamecocks have this year. I don't know if it was an SEC play or the entire season. And Gamecock offense, has a turnover. They've only given up like 3 scoring plays after that to the opposing team. So the defense steps up when the offense makes a mistake. And I think it was something like, maybe it was like 15 points total or something like that when the defense gives up when the offense gives a turnover away. But this defense just continues to step up, and the 30 points Missouri scored were all earned points. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I think defensively, once they realized, or they did a really nice job of, Shane Beamer kind of talked about this tonight, of once they got down into the red zone, forcing field goals, holding on to field goals, because of how many times Missouri got in the red zone, if they scored touchdowns that game, South Carolina probably doesn't win that game. But South Carolina was, I have the stat right here, I got it. It was 1 of 9 on third downs. For Missouri was 1 of 9 on third downs, and that's really kind of huge. And that shows the red zone defense. Missouri did get a few touchdowns in the red zone, but for the most part, South Carolina did what it had to do to kind of shut them down in the red zone, not let them continue to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or go ahead, man.
Oh, I was gonna toss it back to you, Joe.
Oh, yeah. So, I think that red zone defense, you saw the game Nick Eamon had. True leader on that defense, was really, good with putting the seatbelt to him on that goal line, right? Doing everything they can on the outside to force, the run game inside. And again, as like Mizzou broke a couple, but that happens with the run game, especially in those tight packages. Guys are falling down. They're going to get a couple yards. That happens. But bend, don't break, forcing the field goals. And then, you were able to force a field goal, and then they had a penalty that wiped them back. I think it was a holding call or something like that on one of their field goals, and then he missed on the miss. So I think this defense is really, really good at digging their heels in on the goal line and knowing too, like when they need to make a stop. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, and look, Missouri, they ran the ball successfully last night against the Gamecocks, but they had 37 carries for 144 yards. I mean, it kind of was like death by 1,000 paper cuts. But, Missouri on the season was only averaging 106 yards rushing per game in SEC play. Gamecocks 168. They were held to 109 last night. So I think the Gamecocks would have liked to establish the run a little bit more. But when your quarterback throws for 353, I don't think you really care how it gets done.
Yeah, and that's one. I think Missouri, it kind of seems like their game plan defensively coming into the game was just not let South Carolina run the ball and make Lenore's beat them through the air. And Lenore's did that because, the running game just wasn't quite there for most of the night. They, a bunch of those up the middle runs and perimeter runs, Missouri really kind of shut those down. But I think Missouri just kind of said, let Lenore's beat us when he beats us through the air, would take that. And Lenore's turned in obviously his best performance of his young career at South Carolina. And we keep talking about how he just keeps getting better and better. And it was last night, you just saw it again. He just keeps improving and making, in all facets of his game, he's just getting so much better.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is, again, Alex, one of his best games we've seen from him in a Carolina jersey. Plain and simple. His progression has been unbelievable. The guy behind me, Josh, was talking about it all night. Like this was the one thing that they needed from Lenoris was, a 2-minute drill, like being able to put it together and actually finish off a game where, you're trailing late in the fourth quarter. And the kid showed all the moxie and more, was really cool, calm and collected in that spot, was able to get the job done. I don't think anybody, offensively really, looked nervous. They went out there and executed. And I think it stems from Lenoris. Yes, he put together such an impressive day, on the stat sheet. But I think there's a lot of things that we saw from him in this game that go far beyond, just an impressive performance there. Like this is materials which you build essentially a franchise quarterback now in college around. This is what you can build, a program off of and start winning momentum towards. So it's big stuff on a big stage too against Missouri. It's a must-win game. Got to win out if you're South Carolina and your quarterback, put together one hell of a performance.
When you talk about Lenoris, and especially what the Gamecocks are doing on offense right now, they've done it in numerous ways now. It's been running, it's been passing. Obviously last night was a big throwing game for Lenoris to, I think 9 different receivers called a pass, which is an absurd stat line. But Missouri only had 1 sack last night. So over the last 3 games, Lenore Sellers has only been sacked 1 time, which is just an absurd statistic when you look at last year, the trouble that Spencer Rattler had, avoiding sacks because the offensive line just didn't give him much of a chance. But, Lenoris is just literally throwing people off of him at this point. He might be the hardest quarterback in the country to tackle. And I see some comparisons in here to like Cam Newton. I've heard those comparisons.
Johnny Manziel.
Sometimes, yeah. I've seen the Jalen Milroe comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that I think he reminds me of the most is Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills quarterback. Mm-hmm. Just how big he is and how strong. And he had some accuracy problems when he first got the NFL. But that's he's right-handed, obviously, and Josh is left-handed. But one day I'm going to ask Pat DeMarco about that because he played with Josh Allen for a couple of seasons. But I see that in his future. I think that, anyone that was, and I'm not going to throw a lot of shade here, but there were so many comments about Lenore Sellers not being QB1, not being the right guy. Can't take him to take us to the promised land, all those kinds of things. And I think that, the 3 of us and other people that had some more inside information, there was like, just wait on this guy. And that's why we were talking about him last year. What he's doing right now, those downfield throws, I think ESPN had a stat last night that he has the most 20+ yard completions when outside the pocket of any quarterback in college football right now. And he's only played 8.5 games. Like it's just unbelievable. And like Nick Harbor, what he did, Dale Von Campbell. Who thought Dale Von Campbell was arguably going to have the 2 biggest receptions of the night last night?
The year, arguably.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, Lenoris, he's so good outside the pocket throwing the ball, and it just looks easy for him. I mean, we've seen these throws against Vanderbilt, and yesterday, so, when he's rolling, and it looks like it's just a flick of the wrist for him, and the ball goes 50 yards. And kind of to your point, right when you started talking, Matt, about the offensive line, I think the offensive line needs some credit in this game, especially pass pro. The run blocking, I think what we talked about earlier, Missouri just really stalled out to stop the run. But, for the most part, I thought Lenoris had a pretty clean pocket in the game last night. He had a few times where he had to, avoid a defender, especially that big play that I know we're going to talk about here, in the second half part of the discussion. But, I thought the offensive line pass protected really well, and Lenoris just continues to do what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about those Delvon Campbell catches and a lot more in the second half right after this commercial break. Thanks for tuning in. Yes, indeed. We appreciate all of our sponsors here on the Rooster Rant, as always. But guys, second half was a lot to love for South Carolina. Also, got the heartbeats racing of pretty much everybody involved. The Cardiac Cocks came back and got things done in the second half. Where do you guys want to start with this one?
I think you start kind of just let's break down the half. We'll just go drive by drive, and then we can talk a little bit more about how the second half played out. But start the second half. Gamecocks go 41 yards in 8 plays, turn the ball over on downs. That's when Missouri had their first big answer. The ensuing drive, Missouri scored a touchdown, made it 21-12. Next possession, the Gamecocks go 5 plays, 20 yards, turn the ball over on downs. Missouri kicks a field goal, 21-15. Now it's a touchdown game again. This is where it starts to get real dicey for the Gamecocks. And then Gamecocks find a way to go 3 yards or 3 plays, 0 yards, and punt. Then Missouri scores a touchdown, make it 22-21. Or 22-19. I don't know why it's showing down the box score, but anyway, then Gamecocks answer, touchdown, Missouri touchdown, Gamecocks touchdown. I mean, you have, first 3 drives, 61 yards of the second half, and you have turn the ball over twice on downs and punt. And then the next 2 drives, you have 150 yards of offense in 5 minutes and 2 touchdowns to win the game. It was just crazy how it all unfolded.
Yeah, I think Shane kind of mentioned this last night. I think, Matt, I think you did just a while ago. You kind of got the vibes of the LSU game, kind of coming back, kind of similar with the way this game's playing out. South Carolina had a 2-score lead at halftime, and momentum really started shifting to at that game LSU. But then last night really started shifting momentum with Missouri. And, I think it was one of those where the offense, kind of went into a lull there. It just wasn't much going. The run game wasn't going, and they probably didn't try hard enough in the pass game there early in the third quarter to kind of get Missouri on their heels. But, the defense, then Missouri just, kept finding lanes, running lanes. And I think it was one of those where South Carolina kind of had to dig deep there late in the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter to find, their own momentum in that one because Missouri completely took it over there early in the third quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give credit to the South Carolina defense, even though they were bad giving up the stops again. They got the stop when they needed to, right? And it felt like Shane just trusted his defense, right? Even though they were bending and not breaking, and they were making some plays and driving. There was just kind of the sense that he still trusts him. Sent him out there, with Missouri driving, pretty much essentially for the game. Now Missouri's fault. They left 1:10 on the clock for Lenore Sellers at home. But again, Missouri did just about everything they could to win that football game. And the defense, made as many plays as they could, and Shane trusted them through that, and eventually stood on it. Jelon Kilgore, who got smoked on the incredible throw from Brady Cook to Luther Burden. You can't really put a ball any better than Brady put it with Burden on that touchdown. So Kilgore was able to get some get back though with that pick towards the end of the game. I mean, way to step up, make a play, and make up for your error, right? It probably felt so good for him to make that play and just erase the last touchdown.
And on that play, there wasn't much Jalen Kilgore could do. I mean, that was just a beautifully thrown ball by Brady Cook, and almost an even better catch. I mean, a one-handed catch by Luther Burden, who showed why he's going to be a first-round pick and a guy who's going to play in the NFL for a long time. And yeah, it was really good coverage. There's not much Jalen Kilgore could do on the play. And then, as you mentioned, it was really good to see Jalen kind of get that one back with the interception to seal the game.
Well, two things on that particular play. Oftentimes you'll see a DB who's beat, and look, he got beat on it, and like he might have had good coverage, but he got beat. He could have tackled him, tried to make a play on the ball, could have, the game could have been completely different because if Luther Burden doesn't go in there and score, the amount of time there was still on the clock, I don't know if the Gamecocks could have come back if they only had 30 seconds to go 70 yards, right? Yeah. So good on him for taking his beating like a man, I guess, and just letting it happen. But then the second thing there is just like, what a gutsy call by Missouri and Brady Cook to put the ball in the air on 4th and 5. I mean, you could have gone 7 yards down the field and have a much safer throw. But I mean, that's where I think the air just kind of like left. And kudos to whoever is doing the sound system and in charge of the music at Williams-Brice Stadium, because right after that happened, they started playing Rocky. And I mean, the entire room that I was in watching the game was like, all right, let's go. Let's go get 3, and just imagine if they hadn't scored with 1:05 left, Gamecocks probably don't win that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That was enough. I think the minute was right in the sweet spot. Cause Matt, great point. And so, the Burden catch too, one-handed. That's he's going to be like just right in the bucket. Like that's Sunday's material. He's well on his way to multi-million-dollar contracts in the future. He's going to make a lot of money. But I agree, Matt. The Rocky music, it kind of gave the feeling like it necessarily the building was like, all right, we're here. There's 1:10 left. Let's just see what happens. Right. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, here we go again. Right, there's a little bit of it. You can still feel it. But then the Rocky music, I mean, shout out again, Justin King. I don't know if Justin King has any say over that or what, but whoever turned the Rocky music on, it was great. Certainly kept some of the energy within the barn and kept things rowdy and obviously gave the offense what it needed to do to go out there and do that. And one last thing, credit to Rocket on the goal line, man. That extra effort pretty much sealed it. It made things a lot less complicated on the goal line. And everything, it left no doubt, right?
And kind of on that last drive, Lenore's really kind of showed his progress that he's made this year because he was really cool, calm, and collected. In a moment where a redshirt freshman quarterback could have easily been, kind of everywhere and just not with it. But I mean, they kind of got off to a slow start on that drive. But then we kind of mentioned earlier that play to Dale Campbell, who really stepped up in big moments last night, which was good to see from him. He had that big catch to get down to the goal line or near, deep into Missouri territory. And then, as y'all mentioned, what a play call and what an individual effort by Rocket. I mean, you kind of felt like once he got the ball and got past that one defender, you kind of started to wonder, like, is he going to get in? Because, I mean, he just – the way he ran, to get into the end zone, I mean, he was not going to be denied on that play to get in the end zone. And I think he saw the goal line and he was going to go get it, and he got it.
Well, I think that a couple of different things there. Let's talk about that last drive, and we can talk more about the second half as a whole. But that last drive in particular, Lenore's did some things that are just professional things. He knew that he knew he had 3 timeouts. Number one, Let's start with the reverse to Nick Harbor to pick up an extra 20 yards. They probably wouldn't have gotten a field position. That was ballsy, just as ballsy as the pass that Brady Cook threw. Because, if that thing goes sideways, it's Missouri's ball inside the 20, and they're going to win that game, kneeling the football and kicking a field goal. But so you have that. But then, the first play, he just calmly threw the ball out of bounds where nobody could get it. He knew he had 4 downs to play with. The next play, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a little crossing route or something. No, it was over to Jared Brown in the corner on the sideline. Got a first down. The next play, it wasn't there. He threw the ball away again. And then just being able to keep your eyes upfield and to see Dale Vaughn crossing over the middle where nobody's covering him. Because look, Nick Harbor was playing like Nick Harbor in the video game. Trust me, they were covering him with 2 people downfield because they were not going to get beat deep. And then just to be able to turn the Jets on for the second time in a game, that's a little route that they're going to need to keep working with, going into Wofford and Clemson. But the shuffle pass out of a timeout, and that was absolutely brilliant. It was gutsy. And like you said, Alex, there's nobody on the team that I would rather have the ball in that situation, having to go 15 yards to get into the end zone to win a game than Rocket. Because that guy, Gamecock's very fortunate he's on their team this year and not at Arkansas, I'll put it that way. But golly, what an end to the game. I think, the pass to Michael Smith for a touchdown, that was just a beautiful play call as well. Who expected Michael Smith to get the ball there? that looked designed the entire way to me too.
South Carolina's run that kind of quarterback power play where they've pulled guards and all that, and they kind of ran that, but had Michael Smith kind of go out into the corner, and it was pretty well covered. The Missouri defender was right there, but had enough where they kind of had him on their heels a little bit, and the Norris just made, as you mentioned, a great throw, another good catch by Michael Smith for his first touchdown of his career.
Yeah. Big catch from a true freshman from Mike Smith. I also have a point on Harbor, but I did want to talk about Michael Smith for a sec. Humongous catch. He's been playing above his competition level as a true freshman, which is beyond expectations for a freshman at South Carolina. And he's one of those guys where South Carolina added a lot of depth in the tight end room. They kind of knew who their 2 guys were going to be, for this upcoming season. And then here comes Mike Smith on campus, puts on a ton of weight, leaping over guys, making catches, has carved out a role for himself and is going to be a really good tight end at this university. So shout out to him. But then, Nick Harbor, man, he has potential to be the number 1 wide receiver next year, right? You got to see some more progression and everything like that, but he's slowly developing into that guy, the Megatron-esque, the tall receiver that's like, hey, just throw it up to him. He's going to go get it. He's getting to that point. I think that's also exciting to see. And then, Rocket, the play before, like for Rocket, they played Rooster right beforehand. And I don't know if I've had as many goosebumps like in a stadium for that. Like it's here. Like that was the play that did things. So atmosphere, everything, all of it, chef's kiss.
And to the point with kind of the tight end room, just something that we probably do need to note that it does sound like Brady, Shane Beamer said tonight that Brady Hunt's going to be out for the next 2 games. He had, I think it was a non-contact injury. Shane said tonight, he said the most significant injury from last night is Brady Hunt. He's going to miss the next 2 games for sure. Lower leg injury that was non-contact. He said that we expect to have him back for the postseason, whatever that is, in December. So, I think that's just one to watch in that tight end room, especially with how often they like to use multiple tight end sets. So, hopefully Brady, I don't remember I think it was later in the game, maybe on that last drive it happened, but, it's probably going to see time for, some of these other tight ends to step up to kind of be with Josh Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. Just what a win, what a moment for the Gamecocks. This football season at Williams-Brice Stadium has been electric every single game. You guys have no idea what this is doing for recruiting, for setting the tone for future classes, to have these kids in the building as often as they are. I know Alex will be busy, getting recruiting information and updates and all that for the Big Spur. So make sure you check out thebigspur.com for all the updates that are coming out of this thing. And I think it's going to be an exciting December and during early signing day for the Gamecocks, and maybe we'll see some flips here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, atmosphere, all of that. Big win. They gotta win out. I think winning out takes care of a lot of things. Certainly will keep a lot of guys in the building. We are running short on time, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, just, another incredible environment in Williams-Brice, as Matt mentioned, that's, resonating with recruits, and you have one more chance to, get in Williams-Brice Stadium. It's going to be senior day for a lot of seniors who I know Shane Beamer kind of, mentioned last night for fans to get in the stadium early for the seniors who have, been in the program for a while and kind of helped lead, into Shane Beamer's tenure. So, another last chance getting Williams-Brice for South Carolina heads to Clemson for the in-state rivalry once again.
Yeah, I guess my last thought here is just 5-3 in the SEC, beating 3 ranked opponents 3 straight weeks. Huge for the program, huge for the fan base. I'm happy for the fan base, especially over the past couple of years. And the job's not finished. Obviously, you got 2 more games left. I know everyone's heart's probably recovering today, and your blood pressure's probably dropping a little bit. But every so often, it's nice to have a win like that just is exciting and crazy, and you can't predict it. So I'm just happy for all the Gamecock fans. I'm happy for people that stuck around. Unfortunately, there was one guy on the Big Spur who said that he left after Missouri caught the touchdown and missed one of the biggest moments in Williams-Brice Stadium history. So remember, if you're within 8 points, the game is always still alive. So don't leave early if you can avoid it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, guys. Huge win for the program. Again, momentum is fully rolling. Now, the college football playoff talks get started. You need some losing ahead of you, but always fun to have your team in that conversation going towards the end of the year. So, humongous win, unbelievable game. Guys showed a lot of maturity going down the stretch to be able to win that one. So a lot of good things, but yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate everyone tuning in tonight.
One more thing, Joe, real quick before we go. Alex and I our show will be on Wednesday nights the rest of the year. So Wednesdays at 8 p.m. just with schedules, college basketball games, all of that Alex has to cover. Yeah. So Wednesday nights.
Absolutely. Well, sweet. Jam-packed Wednesday nights now over here on the Chief Sports Network. Yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in again tonight. Check us, both of our all shows out on Wednesday night, I guess. Love it. So, yeah, thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight, and we will see you next week.
All right. See you guys.